Hello and welcome. You're watching Newsx with me, Devika Chopra. In latest developments, we're learning that a Lashkar-e-Taiba operative, Saifullah Khalid, has been killed in Pakistan's Sindh province. He was attacked by unknown assailants in the multi-city of Badin district in Sindh. According to sources, Saifullah Khalid had been given strict instructions by the terror outfit to limit his movement. He had also been provided security. However, as he stepped out of his house in the city of Malti, he was targeted and shot dead at a nearby intersection. Khalid was a key conspirator in three major attacks: the 2005 Indian Science Congress attack in Bangalore, the 2006 attack on the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh headquarters in Nagpur, and the 2008 CRPF camp assault in Rampur. These attacks, carried out over a span of 3 years, claimed several lives and marked a massive escalation in the LET's operations on Indian soil. Operating under the alias of Vinod Kumar Khalid, he was based in Nepal for several years, where he lived under a false identity and married a local woman, Nagma Banu. From Nepal, he is believed to have coordinated activities for the LET, maintaining a low profile while playing a crucial role in recruitment and logistics. More recently, Khalid had shifted his base to Malti in the Badin district of Sindh province of Pakistan. There he continued working for the Lashkar-e-Taiba, a UN-prescribed Pakistani terrorist group, and its front organization, the Jamaat-ud-Dawa, primarily focusing on recruitment and fund collection for terror operations. However, viewers, what's most interesting is that Saifullah Khalid has been accorded a state funeral in Pakistan, visuals of which are on your screens. He can be seen draped in the Pakistani flag as several terrorists, including LET's Sindh commander Faisal Nadeem, were in attendance. All those photographs on your screens. The sight of terrorists being accorded state funerals in Pakistan is not anything new. We all remember designated terrorist Hafiz Abdul Rauf leading the funeral procession of terrorists that were neutralized by Indian forces in Murid Ke a mere 10 days ago in Operation Sindoor. But today, in a day and age where there is social media, where everyone has a phone with a camera that can click photographs, that can record videos, and those videos become easily accessible on online platforms, how will Pakistan continue to explain why its members of the ISI and the Pakistan military are present right next to terrorists? To take this conversation forward, I have with me Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, former diplomat. We also have with us Major Jijit Dwivedi, global strategic defense expert, Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, and Pathikrit Pine, geopolitical expert, with us on the broadcast. Major Jijit Dwivedi, I want to begin with you, sir. I want to understand from you. Today, when we see military officials of Pakistan and officials of the ISI attending state funerals, when we hear that terrorists are being draped in Pakistani flag, they're being given a state funeral, the funeral processions are protected by the military and the ISI, does this take us back to about a decade ago, when the Americans had launched a manhunt for a man named Osama bin Laden, who fled their ambush in Afghanistan, and for 15 years they were trying to locate him, and they ended up finding him in a house in Abbottabad, Pakistan, which was right next to Pakistan's military base?
Well, Devika, first and foremost, I think this should not come as a surprise, because Pakistan military and the terrorist outfits are totally integrated, right from the top to bottom, strategically and tactically. So therefore, such visuals or videos should not come as a surprise. And you rightly said that Osama bin Laden was 3 kilometers away from Abbottabad military base, and he was there for good over a decade. So what does it actually indicate? Let's go back point in time. No less than former President Musharraf or Imran Khan, and lately Father, their defense minister and their foreign minister Bilawal, they all have openly admitted that we have been nurturing the terrorists, and they have been a part of our, you know, military or the assets. The point I'm trying to make out is that Pakistan is confirmed as a terrorist state, and their military uses the terrorists as the frontline soldiers. My own experience at the LOC, where I have done number of tenures, each Pakistan post has handful of these terrorists integrated, and they are the ones actually who prosecute their proxy war, and therefore I don't think we should be surprised on this issue. And Pakistan has openly admitted, and they make no bones about it. What I wish to state is that we need to, you know, expose Pakistan, and shortly our delegations are leaving for abroad to put across our point of view. I think these instances must be highlighted squarely. The second point is that Pakistan military is nurturing the terrorists. They are being protected as high value assets. No less than Hafiz Sayyid is under high security in Pakistan military bases. So, Devika, the point is that while we keep exposing this, at the same time, we also need to practically implement our policy, and that is that when we are hitting terrorist bases, we should not be so apologetic that we are only hitting terrorist infrastructure. No, there is no difference between terrorist infrastructure or the terrorist organization and the Pakistan military, because they are integrated. My last word is that we need to accept the fact that Pakistan military cannot fight without these terrorists, because they are the front-end soldiers. So willy-nilly, when we are taking out the terrorists, Pakistan army is involved, and they should be paying the price. So I end up on a note that we need to go in for terrorists and Pakistan army together, because until Pakistan army gets hit, these terrorists will continue to be nurtured, and we will not be able to defeat the proxy war. Devika.
Okay, Master Mahesh Sajdev, bringing you in on that point, sir. Mirjan Zvivedi just raised a point of how we are now in the process of sending out delegations of our members of parliament to various countries, where we don't know what exactly they'll be talking about, but we've been given a brief that they'll be essentially highlighting India's success through Operation Sindoor. I want to understand from your perspective, if an Indian delegation were to take some of this evidence to people abroad, where we show them the rap sheet of some of these people who are now being draped in the Pakistani flag, the rap sheet of the people who are standing in these funerals right next to the Pakistani military and the ISI, do you feel that that would have any sort of impact in changing the world's understanding of what Pakistan truly is? Or is that an exercise in futility and it will once again fall on deaf ears?
Thank you, Devika. It's an important issue, and my qualified reply to this would be a yes. Such an exercise does serve some purpose. I would like to contend that very often when we make those demarches at official level, we are told that parliaments are supreme, and then members of parliament of the recipient countries, if they want to articulate about Indo-Pak issues, Kashmir issues, etc., they are free to do so. Then again, media is free in those countries, and media has mind of its own, and the government is not responsible for it. So we come to a dead end. While we are assured at the government level that they understand, appreciate, etc., our position, but they take refuge behind all these sandbags. And by sending a delegation, provided they are articulate, they are well equipped with evidences, visuals, and confessions, etc., these can persuade the doubting Thomases. That is one part. Second part, I would wish to join General Dwivedi in saying that we should not just go after the infrastructure of the terrorists. In Iraq, in Afghanistan, Americans went after the infrastructure of the terrorists, which were basically tents and loose structures or mud walls, etc., and destroying them did not hurt Mujahideens or Al-Qaeda, etc. We actually need to go after high-value operatives, the leadership, and that is when the terrorism can receive its just desert. Thank you.
Okay, Gautam Mukherjee, bring you into the conversation. While there is an understanding in India that we no longer perhaps need to be over apologetic about the targets that we're picking, about the sites that we're picking in Pakistan to take out, and at the same time, we completely know, Gautam Mukherjee, in India, that there is no difference between the Pakistani military, the ISI, and the terrorists who operate out of it. They're all one. It's a single soul in different bodies, one can put it that way. However, when we collect over the years information, evidence, proof, is that really serving any purpose abroad, or do we need to now take a stand for our country and its own interests and say, okay, we will no longer be convincing people abroad that the Pakistani military is hands in glove with the terrorist organizations? Or do we need to take a more aggressive approach and say that you were the ones, your nations came together to track down one man, Osama bin Laden, who had broken all hell loose on Western nations and their security, and it took you 10 years to hunt him down, and don't forget ever where exactly you found him. So which of the two does India need to do going forward? Do we only focus on collecting the evidence and knowing that we know what we know our truth, and that's enough and we need to move forward, or do we need to be now extremely aggressive in our approach in explaining to the world why we have a problem with Pakistan?
Well, Devika, our policy has changed. As of Operation Sindoor, we have made it clear that the Indian state regards the Pakistan state as state sponsors of terrorism, with no distinction between the terrorist organizations and their hideouts as well as their headquarters, and the Pakistani Army, Air Force, and the political establishment. We have therefore made it clear to them that if there are any more terrorist attacks, we will attack the entire system in Pakistan as and when we feel appropriate and in a manner of our choosing. So, there's a lot of catching up to do by Pakistan, because they started this in Zia-ul Haq's time with their policy of 1,000 cuts and what they considered to be low value frontline terrorists who were expendable, and while distancing the Pakistani state as well as the Pakistani armed forces from the activities of the terrorists. Now they have adopted the same terrorists to their breast. That is why they are attending their funerals and draping the terrorists who are killed in the Pakistani flag and looking at them as frontline warriors. So the thing with Pakistan that it needs to digest is that there is no low-cost warrior anymore. It's a high-cost operation. If they strike India in any way, they will be struck on the whole, and it will cost them a great deal, including a major destruction of their political and military establishment. So this is what they are coming to terms with. I think they haven't quite understood and digested this. It's been a shock. It's very soon now. Now, as far as explaining it to the rest of the world, I think what we are going to be doing is not justification, not dossiers and pictures, though those are extremely important as a matter of the record, as well as the various videos that have been shot by many of our frontline military agencies as evidence which cannot be refuted. Having said that, we are not there to go and convince anyone else. What we are saying is our policy has shifted. This is the reason why it has shifted. And in future, expect much worse, much worse retribution against the Pakistani state should they sponsor any more terrorism across the border.
Okay, Pathikrit, bring you into the conversation. Pathikrit, I want your perspective on the same aspect that I've just raised. Does India need to now just accept going forward that we know our truth and we know it best? We don't want to give further explanations to the world? Or do we become slightly more aggressive in our approach towards the narrative war against Pakistan? Because a lot of people today still believe that Pakistan somehow has won the war on narratives against India as far as the Pahalgam attack and Operation Sindoor is concerned.
Well, Devika, yes, we need to up the ante so far as the information warfare is concerned. That much I agree, because the information warfare is as important as the kinetic war. But I think I also believe that this is the last time that India would send any delegate abroad to give India's viewpoint. I think after this, nobody will go from India. The reason is this, that who will you try to convince? Are you trying to convince the West, which knows everything? They know everything. It is not that we will say to them anything which they are not aware of. We have to understand this, that if terrorism or the non-state actors, who I call state-sponsored non-state actors, if the non-state actors are an instrument of statecraft for Pakistan, then Pakistan itself is an instrument of statecraft for the West and China. And both of them actually want Pakistan to survive because they have a game of containing India. They don't want India to get destroyed, but they want India to remain within a threshold so that India doesn't emerge as a challenger. And because India has emerged as a challenger, this is becoming a problem for them. So every time there would be an Osama bin Laden, the West will go and hunt Osama bin Laden because Osama bin Laden targeted Western assets. But every time they would go and hunt an Osama bin Laden, they would not hunt an Hafiz Saeed or a Masood Azhar or somebody else, because those are meant for India. So we have to understand this clear-cut distinction that there is nothing called a war and terror. And this is where I think there is a certain amount of frustration and realization within India as well, that the entire the edifice of multilateral institutions that the West has its own dubious purpose as well, to keep the Western edge intact. And that is why, in spite of knowing that Pakistan will never pay back the money, and that this money will never be utilized for the right purpose of eradicating poverty or actually genuinely building infrastructure, IMF will keep on giving them money. And that's the reason a lot of people in social media keep on saying that IMF stands for Islamic Mujahideen Fund. So let me put this: information warfare is primarily that area where we have to improve. I think that is primarily for convincing the general mass across the world, not for convincing the governments of the West. The governments of the West or their agencies of the establishment are totally hand in glove with what is happening. Why do you think the Trump administration was desperate, requesting India, please stop your operation? Because they never expected India to cross the threshold and hit so precisely, so decisively, so vindictively, to actually give it the right kind of thrashing to the Pakistanis, that Pakistan, not only Pakistan, the pain was felt by their masters in Western China as well. So they have an agenda to keep Pakistan. It is the West, I believe, which kept on telling Pakistan that, look, India will never cross the threshold. You can keep on dangling the nuclear threat, and you can keep on using the non-state actors with a plausible deniability clause. I mean, you have a Donald Trump coming up and saying that Pakistan is a beautiful people, will do great trade. These are statements coming from the President of United States. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump is a dumb person. I don't think so. People may think, but I don't think. Donald Trump individually may be a different person, but once he becomes the President of United States, he is following the establishment norm. The establishment has a purpose. The purpose is simple, that you have to keep Pakistan alive. Otherwise, you cannot today, China is problem for today for United States or the West. India is the problem for tomorrow. So they would keep on, pinching you, creating problem. Why do you think the Bangladesh issue was created? It's because that India has a strategic depth. So whatever Pakistan does, it has its limitation. Even if India gets into a limited conflict with Pakistan, the rest of even if India gets into a conflict with Pakistan, most of India will continue very fine, and the economy will run. So that's the reason another problem was created on the Eastern Front.
Yes.
So that from both sides you can create problems. So I don't think India is trying to convince the world. It is just going to tell the world that, look, this is it, we are going to do, that's your choice, what you do beyond this. And I think the West, which has an agenda to hunt with the hound and run with the hare, knows that I think this is the tipping point. And I don't know what the West will do beyond this, but they are still okay, even okay if terrorism from Pakistan creates another 9/11 in United States or elsewhere, God forbid, so long as Pakistan remains there to contain India. That is a very big agenda. So there are a lot of subterfuges in the game happening, and I think there is this realization there is no point. The West knows more than us how what Pakistan is, and West is okay with that. We have to understand this. The rest, we know that this is our war, we have to fight.
Okay, Meera Gigi Dwivedi, bringing you back, sir. One last question to you. I want to understand from your perspective. We also know that there is enough trouble within Pakistan as far as rebel groups are concerned, as far as the cause for Balochistan, Sindustan, Pashtunistan. All of these causes have been brewing rather for many years in Pakistan today. What we're learning about this latest LET commander is that he wasn't killed in the Indian strikes in Operation Sindoor or its aftermath. He's been shot dead in Pakistan in the Sindh province. Is that somewhere an indication that perhaps the measures that have been taken by India and the position that has been taken by India could have emboldened some of the other rebel groups within Pakistan to genuinely take on the Pakistani military and their terrorist associates?
Well, Devika, first and foremost, we need to understand that Pakistan is a terrorist state, and it has all variety of terrorists with the different tags and different brand names that are nurtured. So therefore, these non-state actors, the terrorists, have lot of inter-rivalries because they have their turf to protect, and so to that extent, their rivalries are quite common and quite evident. The point I'm trying to make is that we need to have a very integrated approach to defeat Pakistan proxy war, and in that it has to be fought at different levels. Internationally, diplomatically, politically, economically, militarily. And militarily it is most important because after all, it's the Pakistan military which is nurturing these expendable commodities. And we also need to exploit the inter-rivalry which you rightly brought out in Pakistan between the groups, because that is also taking the fight across the line of control. And now India is at a pivot point because we have made it very clear that we have to take this war, proxy war against Pakistan, to a logical conclusion. So therefore, Devika, this has to be fought right in the heartland of Pakistan, and both by covert and overt means, because ultimately we need to dent this vital asset of Pakistan army, and that can only happen when we have an integrated approach and which have bringing all the elements of national power to defeat this. And my final point is, today we need not be worried or concerned about Pakistan bogey of nuclear weapons or nuclear asset they had, because their assumption was that India's retaliation will be restrained because of the nuclear bogey. That have been busted, and this gives us a very legitimate now opportunity to go hammer and tongue for Pakistan at all levels and internally exploit the vulnerabilities of Pakistan to best of our advantage. Devika.
Right, absolutely. On that note, I thank all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast to take this conversation forward. That's all the time that we have, viewers. We step into a very quick break.